We're going to focus on mixing chemicals again. This is a big thing that we get a lot of requests. In fact, it's our top question that we get from people wanting to know how to do it. As we mentioned in a different video, but same thing, there are written directions on how to do this. It'll be in your manual, and you might want to keep that on hand just to maybe refresh people's memory. But please use this video as not only a teaching tool for yourself, but also anybody within your company that is going to be mixing chemical. It's very important that they know how to do it properly and safely. So we're going to focus on the soap, or the alkaline side now. You'll notice on the soap, the label has the black dotted line around it, and that's what we're going to put in. So if you would, Adam, let's show the drum pack for soap. Again, matches up with that black dotted line. This is the soap pack. Has all the hazard information on it, as they always do, and we're going to make this at this time. As you probably already noticed, we already have this drum prepped. That's a 55-gallon batch, by the way. Don't make it in a smaller batch. This is strictly for a 55-gallon batch, and that's what it's blended for. Anyway, so we have the drum that's already full of water. As you notice, we're above the second stripe or divot around the tank. We actually go a little bit higher than that, but this is the minimum. This is 2/3. That's going to be the minimum. I like to go a little bit more water than that. I usually go about 3 inches above, and that's going to be our starting point. So we fill it with water up to that point, and only then do we start adding the product to the water. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to get gowned up, make sure that we're all safe, and then I'll step you through the process to make sure that's done properly. So stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to begin now. You can see I'm all gowned up. I got my safety equipment on. This is very sexy, as you can see. Shows off my nice svelte figure. But we have chemical resistant gloves for that. And then we have this awesome face mask. I like the shield. It protects not only your eyes, protects your neck and everything, and then typically you're looking down as well. So as you can see, it goes right down to your chest. It protects any sort of splashback situation that you might have. So I like this. Obviously we offer these things. You can also find them locally. Just make sure you get good quality stuff for your guys to make sure everyone is going to be safe when doing this sort of work. So anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. This is our drum wrench, or bung wrench they call it, is another term for it. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the bung. This is where we're going to pour our solutions into. So let's take that off of there. Okay, we got that off. You'll notice that this is a fine thread. That's going to be the best one to actually screw our funnel onto. So again, this is fine thread. One's going to be fine, one's going to be coarse or very thick threads. We want to focus on the fine thread if at all possible. That's going to be the easiest one to have our funnel screw on. So again, this is our classic funnel. This is a good funnel. It's a drum funnel. They make these for this purpose, and you can find these locally. We also handle these as well, sell these if you can't find it. I know many of you already have these, but if not, you might want to recommend getting one of those. So let's go ahead, we'll screw this in place, make sure it's nice and secure. Why do we do this as opposed to just a loose funnel? What can happen if it's loose? Maybe put your drum up there as you're pouring your products in. The funnel can tip, can fall, you can get stuff all over the ground, and it'll also affect your dilution rate. So we like a nice solid funnel like this. They're fairly cheap, and they take quite a beating as well. Our guys really put them through the paces. So we have that screwed in place. You can see it's nice and secure, doesn't move. And so now we're going to focus on our solutions. So let's go ahead. I like to take a needle nose pliers, but we have other pliers typically on our trucks that we'll use. And we're going to look for the pull tab. Here, it's right here. So what I do is I just take a needle nose just because it's easier to get down in the groove and start pulling it off. Get that strip off of there. You can set this down again. And then there's 3 little clasp tabs on here. If we take, or 4 I mean, if we take 3 of those loose, the 4th one will let go. You can set aside. What do we see inside? We see the powders for the soap, and we see a half-gallon jug of surfactant. So you see that in here, it's just a kind of a brown liquid. This is what we're going to use last. We're not going to put this in right away. This is what creates the foam. We don't want a lot of foam when we're going to be filling this thing with water. So we're going to pour this in last. So we're going to set this aside. So set this over here just to get it out of the way. So now we're going to focus on pouring these powders into the solution. So let's go ahead and do that. Pour this in gently, but for the most part, these powders are a lot easier to fall into place compared to powders that go on the pre-wash or acid side. Just pour it in. Might notice a little bit of dust coming up from it. Another benefit of wearing a nice, larger face mask like this is it diverts that dust from your lungs. You don't breathe that product in at all. So continue to pour it in. Right, so we poured all the powders in. Here's our garbage. Keep everything together. Put it out of the way so it's not laying all over our truck. So now the powders are all in there. So at this point, we're done with that. So now we're going to take our water, our fresh water. We're going to rinse the funnel out, and then from there, we'll actually bring our water level up just a little bit higher until there's about 4 inches that is actually left to fill into the tank. At that point, we'll put our surfactant in. But let's go ahead and we'll start filling with water here at this time. So here we have our water source. Since we're at our shop, it's going to be a lot easier just to fill it this way. But a lot of guys kind of wonder, what do you do on the truck when you're maybe out at a job site you're going to be making this product? What we typically do is we'll take the connection loose right here. Instead of sticking your gun in there and just pulling the trigger, that will create a lot of foam, the one thing we don't want. So what I do is I shut my water off over here to that gun. I disconnect my fitting right here. I take this hose, drop it deeper as far as I can get it down into the tank. Keep away from the air, and it won't create as much foam. And that's what I use to fill it up. With less foam, you're able to get more accurate reading as far as what your water level is at. You're also not going to get a bunch of foam coming out of the tank as you're trying to mix your product. So that's a little trick, but today we have this. Fortunately for me, it's a little bit easier for me. So what we're going to do is actually start to kind of clean that out a little bit. Now, why do we clean this funnel? Why is that important, you might ask? Well, it's because we might be making the alkaline soap right now. Later on, we might make the acidic pre-wash. We don't want to cross-contaminate. And so by rinsing these out, cleaning them, making sure that they're not going to do that, it's going to benefit us, so we're not going to wreck expensive chemical that's in the drum. So. You try and get it as best you can. We can clean that a little bit later, a little bit better maybe later. And sometimes it's good just to let it sit, let that water kind of break it down too. Looks like we're already done here. So, at this point, we're done with cleaning that out. So now, let's bring our water level up to that 4-inch mark or so. So let's do that at this time. Hopefully you can see that in the camera shot there. And we're about there. So that's where we're going to leave that for the time being. So now we shut our water off, kind of drain everything out. And we'll set that aside for the time being. And now we're going to focus on our surfactant. So this is a surfactant and boost blend. So what we do in the soap pack. That helps for people that maybe have a little bit harder water, that don't have the RO water. Although I know many of you guys are using RO water now, and that's really helped your cleaning, help your solutions stay active and such. But for the rest of us that don't have that, we're not as spoiled. So we put that in there, and it's just part of the whole solution. So at this time we're going to pour that in, so we just remove the cap. We leave our funnel in place. It usually is helpful because if you don't have a steady hand, we could get it all over the top of the tank, and you want it inside the drum, not on the outside. So in this case, since I'm an old guy, we're actually going to leave the funnel in place. So let's go ahead and pour that in. Notice I'm pouring some of it out. I'm going to stop. Sometimes, if the soap pack sits for any length of time, there might be a separation of product. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen occasionally. So what I do when that happens, or is a situation, I pour about at least half of it out, kind of swirl the remaining product around in there to make sure that it all stays loose, and then I just pour the rest of it out. So just give it a little swirl if need be. And it's maybe good to get in the habit to do that every time anyway. Then you don't have to worry about it. We just pour the rest of the product out. Nice and simple. All right, so we have an empty jug. And because I'm anal retentive, I like all my garbage and everything organized. So I put that back in the drum, or pail I should say. Put the lid back on, so when I get back to our shop, I can take that, throw it out as a unit. So keep that in mind for those that are anal retentive like I am. So anyway, so now we're done with the surfactant. Let's go ahead. We're going to take this off. And once this is off, we have about 4 inches that we're going to fill with water again. How are we going to do that? The best way I found is to actually use your wash gun. Not only does it fill it with water, but because of the force that's coming out, it churns that product up off the floor of the drum, helps everything mix a lot better, and we come up with a better solution. So let's do this time. I'll go and grab the gun that we're going to use for that purpose. Okay, so now we've got our wash gun in place. This is what we're going to use. Key component, make sure that we don't have one of our chemicals selected. Because if we, let's say, have it on acid, we spray acid in this drum, it's done. We just wasted, $85 worth of chemical or whatever it ends up being. So we have to keep that in mind. So make sure that that's in the center or middle position. And it also is helpful to make sure this valve is open. This is your rinse valve or bypass line. If that's closed, the gun's going to try and suck chemical. So if you just happen to forget that or get bumped with this closed, it's going to draw that chemical in there. So with this in the middle position, this open, you're going to be in the best position to resist squirting any opposite chemical in there. As you might imagine, if you're mixing chemical, you don't want your guys washing and trying to use that chemical. It's going to suck that chemical into the line, plug your line, and you're going to have a lot of problems trying to get that clear. How do I know this? I've made that mistake. So yeah, you do it once, you remember from that point on. So when you are mixing chemical, make sure you guys know, hey, stop washing. We got to get this taken care of. Once it's done, then you're going to be fine to move on. But let's go ahead and do this now. So again, we've got this selector in the middle position. This also is in the rinse position. We're going to stick that into the drum. As you probably noticed, we're putting that tip below the surface of the water. That's very key. In fact, you might want to get a little closer to the bottom as opposed to farther away. That's where some of that product is still in its solid form yet. It's accumulated at the bottom. So we stick a little closer down, and we're going to use that gun to churn it and mix everything up. You'll notice that the drum product, the water is going to actually turn more white, frothy inside the drums, you'll see with these new drums. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, we're going to try and top that off, get it as close to the top as possible. If we had done this earlier, put that surfactant in earlier, we'd already have a whole bunch of foam in there, and it would be a problem. Well, let's go ahead and mix it up. You might be able to see me kind of moving the wand back and forth. That's allowing that product to be kind of churned up back and forth too. So anyway, let's continue. It looks like we're about an inch and a half away yet. Turn some of that water pressure down a little bit. See how we're getting close to that now? You're starting to see a little bit of that foam come out. We're making a little bit of foam, but it's not bad. And I think we'll be done right there. So that's done. Now let's take a look and see how close we got to the top when we mixed. I don't know if you can see that, but the water is just below the bottom of this, maybe about 1/4 of an inch or so. So we did a really good job of mixing this thoroughly. And so now it's ready to use. So this is awesome. We've mixed it well, we know it's done right, and we're ready to make some money by washing some trucks. So hopefully you've learned from this. If you have any questions, you'd like us to maybe add something to the video or something, let us know. We'd be happy to do that. We hope that this video is helpful to not only you, but all of your people. And we'll try and get some answers or videos made for those guys that are mixing in bulk. Same principles as what we do on a smaller scale in a 55-gallon drum, but obviously much larger. As you can see, this is a bit of a hassle when it's done on the truck, and so that's why I know you guys have felt some of the pressure from us here at BioClean to try and go in bulk as soon as you can. If your facilities allow you to store that, keep that in mind, because I've always felt if you can take this job away from your guys and just make their job more simple, so every time they get back for the day they can just fill up and take off and then go the next morning with the truck without having to mix on the job, it's a lot easier and it's a lot safer for your people. And it also consumes some time as well. As you might imagine, not only is your driver mixing, but all of your helpers, 1 or 2 of them, are just sitting there waiting for this job to be done. So think about it. If it works for you, we'd be happy to help you set it up. We even have the pumps and everything available to us. Anyway, let us know if you have any comments or questions. Maybe post them, but we appreciate you tuning into the BioClean channel. Talk to you guys later.